Spotlight is a production of CTNY, the Catholic television network of Youngstown. It seeks to spotlight people, places, and events from around the Diocese of Youngstown that promote the new gospel of joy called for by Pope Francis. Your program host is Father James Corda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Spotlight. I'm Father Jim Corda. Today we're going to talk about the Serra Club. And joining me is Joe Nudo, who is the president of the club. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Father, thank you so much for having us.
Well, we know that the Serra Club does a lot of wonderful things, not only for priests, but also for seminarians and praying for vocations. And we want to share that wonderful ministry that you provide to us with the folks that are with us today. And maybe to give a little flavor to the beginning of our time together, let's talk about Blessed Junipero Serra. Who was he? What began his ministry on the West Coast out in California?
Father, as you know, the Serra Club is sometimes mixed up with Sierra Club. We're not vocations, we're not for environment, we're for vocations. And I hope when the Pope comes, and he's going to canonize Blessed Junipero Serra this September, I hope that will kind of get the people to know the Serra Club, or Serra, a little bit more. Because it's surprising when they say we belong to the Serra Club. Oh yeah, how's the environment? So we want to get that kind of straightened out with the people. Junipero Serra, he was born as Miguel Jose Serra in Spain, a little island off Spain. And he was from a family of a farm occupation. And he worked hard on the farm, but he had a talent they knew. So they sent him to the Franciscan school. And he was a very good student. So at the age of 16, he joined the Franciscan order. And as you know, as you take and go into an order, you have to pick a religious name. And he picked Juniper, because St. Francis, one of his favorite fires was juniper. So he took the name, so he became Junipero Serra. And after he was ordained, he taught at the university and philosophy, and wrote quite a bit, and he was a very good homilist. I guess after 10 years, I guess he wanted a little more adventure. He volunteered to come to the New World. And in 1949, he joined a group to come to Mexico. And he landed in the Gulf of Mexico, ended up in which we think of Mexico City now. And he stayed there for 10 years, and he worked out of the Our Lady of Guadalupe church, or mission. I guess it was a mission then too. And at that period of time, as you realize that the French were trying to settle up north in Canada, and the east coast of our country, which we know the United States, was the English. And the Spanish were trying to get into Florida and Mexico and come up the coast of California. Well, after 21 or 20 years, it was 1769, he joined in to go up to California because the Spanish wanted to explore California. And he said, this is a good time then to spread our faith up into the savages with the Indians up in California. So he got, and at that time, the traveling was all done by foot, or mule, or some kind of an animal. And Juniper had a bad leg. I know something bit him. They don't know what it was, maybe an insect. So he had to do all the walking most of the time with a bad leg and riding on his horse. But estimated he traveled about 24,000 miles from Mexico up and then through California. And he established 9 missions, starting with San Diego. And then there was also credited another 21 to him that he hadn't planned before he died, but he passed away. And what he did going up there, not only spread the Catholic faith to the Indians, he made the Indians self-sufficient. He taught them how to use the irrigation for farming, which they didn't have before. And also he taught them how to be a bricklayer with the bricks, with clay and carpenter work. And he then baptized quite a few. I think they say percentage of about 5,000, about 10% of the Indians that he came in contact with. And the biggest problem was the language barrier between the Indian and his language. But he would communicate somehow. And he was tough because the Spanish didn't want him to get too close to the Indians, because the Indians were attacking him at times. And all the Spanish wanted to do was to kind of destroy the Indians. And he was very tough in saying, look, let's work with them and let's teach them. Let's teach them the faith. And he also confirmed, they say, about 6,000 of the savages. But then he died in, it was 1784, at the age of 71. And he was buried in one of the missions out there, in the sacristy floor. So he was credited for exploring the land and then spreading the faith, but also educating the Indians and passing the... So he was honored, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, his statue is in the Rotunda in Washington, D.C. Now, that's bringing up a problem now, I read someplace, that since he's going to become a saint in September, they say, he shouldn't be in there anymore. We got to get him out of there. That religion and state.
Well, it's interesting because there are actually two saints whose statues are found in the nation's capital. One representing California, Blessed Junipero Serra, and Father Damien, Saint Damien, representing Hawaii. And so, of course, we have two Catholic saints that are representative in the state, but they're not there politically, because these people made an impact in the lives of the people whom they served. And so we know that Junipero Serra made an impact in the lives of the Native Americans on the coast of California, created missions, shared the faith, converted people to the faith, and then that faith continued to grow. And I believe that it's the faith of Junipero Serra that you share, your group shares, and also encourages among the young people of our areas and our churches and our parishes to look at becoming a priest themselves. How important, we've got a minute left in our first segment together, how important is it, very briefly, for your group to foster vocations, and why is it important?
Father, I have the stats here about how we got involved with this too, but also the need for priests in our diocese. Yet, they say worldwide, we had Dave Schmidt came to our last meeting, at Serra Club dinner meeting, and he gave us some information that worldwide, there's a lot of vocations out there, mainly in Africa. But it seems like in our diocese, we are in need of priests. We only have 91 active priests out of 139. And that's not enough to go around for our parish.
And we're going to talk,
our diocese.
Right. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we're going to take a quick break. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Whether it's passing on medicine, a blanket, or something as simple as a glass of water, that's how compassion works. And that's how Maryknoll works, hand to hand to hand. For nearly 100 years, Maryknoll's been passing on your help to the priests and brothers working in 26 countries around the world. Maryknoll, an American Catholic organization, dedicates 86 cents of every dollar donated to their programs, serving the world's poor and powerless. And that's how it works. Compassion flows from your hand to the hand of someone in need. Hand to hand to hand. That's Maryknoll.
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 That's Maryknoll. That's Maryknoll.
I spent 34 years as a teacher. I just loved interacting with the students.
Many sisters, brothers, and religious order priests served for little pay, and now their communities lack retirement funds.
My very first class had 56 first graders.
Gifts to the Retirement Fund for Religious help provide for medications, nursing care, and more. Please give to those who have given a lifetime. Donate at your local parish.
God bless you for your help.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm talking with Joe Nudo, who is president of the Serra Club here in the Diocese of Youngstown. We talked briefly in our last segment about vocations. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, because that's the important facet of your group, your organization. But let's talk a little bit about the membership here in the area. Who belongs? Why do they belong? If someone's interested in belonging, what do they do?
Okay. Father, let me go back and just say a little bit about how it started. We know Juniper Serra is our namesake, but Serra International started in Seattle. There was 4 businessmen in 1933, and they used to meet for lunch. And mainly they met because they discussed their faith. They were very faithful. But they got to the point, they said, geez, we should be doing more. So they went to the bishop, and the bishop at that time was Bishop Shaughnessy. And he said, well, you know what? I think, why don't you try to help the priests, support the priests a little bit more, especially the new ordained ones. So he said, oh, that's a great idea. So the Serra Club then got a chapter out in 1935, and they took a name, and they said, what can we take? And then picked up with Juniper Serra. They said, oh, he's a Westerner. He was a founder of the religion in California. He'd be great. So they took the name Juniper Serra. And mainly so, the club started off as supporting priests. And until then, Pope Pius XII, in 1941, brought out that there was a need for worldwide vocations in religious life. And we got to do something about it. Well, 1951 is when he proclaimed the Serra Club as the right arm for vocations for the priesthood, or for vocations. And so then the Serra Club then joined in with supporting the priest and then also vocations. And our local club started in 1966. A group of men there got together too. And at that time you had to have 20 men to get a charter. So Jim Dorn and Charlie Butler, I don't know if you know those two men.
I do.
They're both passed away. They're what we call almost the founding fathers of the Serra Club. And they worked hard, and they've got the 20 men. And in October 1972, they began a charter from the International. And from there, we've started, and we're actually 43 years of age then, the Serra Club this October. But the International was stationed in Chicago, and they have 1,170 clubs worldwide, and in 46 countries, 6 continents. There's 9,500 members in the United States, and there were 18,000 total in the world. And for the international station, if you want to ever get in touch with them, it's www.serrainternational.org. And then our organization, we have the Serra Club. We are now redoing our website. So it's going to be serrayoungstown.org. And if anybody would be interested, we meet twice a month. One's a dinner meeting, and we always have a speaker dealing with maybe something about our faith, or something, doesn't have to be a religious person, but we do have, it has to be concerned with faith. And also, we try to have a dinner meeting for the priests of that month, their birthday. We only mainly work for Mahoney County and Trumbull County because it's too tough for the priests to come from the rest of the counties.
Yeah.
So we meet twice a month. The second meeting is a business meeting, the fourth Monday. And if anybody's interested in the Serra Club, I talked to Jerry down at the vocational office. She said, call her, and she'll relay the message to me. Or who's going to be present, because, you know, that changes.
Sure. Now, we know that the club prays primarily for vocations to the priesthood and religious life, but also it promotes and it supports the seminarians that are preparing for the priesthood. Right. And why is it important for your organization to really be supportive of seminarians? What does your congregation and group really get out of that? What's the joy that you get out of that?
Well, Father, when you naturally see the individual enter the seminarian, and we have a picnic in the summertime for all the seminarians, but you see the new ones come, and as we meet, we then adopt one. Each member has one, maybe a seminarian might have more than one, because we have more members maybe than the seminarians. And you just see him develop. And then the day of ordination, it's just a proud moment that you see he becomes a priest. Mm-hmm. That you have prayed for him throughout that time. And when we adopt them, what do? Actually, we just send them encouraging notes, send them a Christmas card, send them maybe a little gift. I know one of the members used to send, and this is before the internet, was very popular, send a roll of stamps. So, you know, you write home or something, you know, or write me, and we keep in touch with them. And for as far as the seminarians, Christmas time we try to have, we instituted a Christmas dinner for them. Come and we kind of, we socialize with them.
Sure, and I think that is really so important, because when a man goes to the seminary, they basically kind of leave their family behind, and they go and they have opportunities to study and prepare and to get their degree and so forth. But to have this connection with their hometown is really important, but also to know that someone's there supporting them prayerfully, and on occasion to give them items like you had mentioned that really help in their communication with people back home. We're down to the last minute of our second segment, so we're going to take a break in a moment. But when we come back, we know that the Serra Club has lots of opportunities for the folks in parishes to pray on their own for vocations. And if there's anything more that we need right now, it's prayer for vocations, because our church, not only locally, but here around the country, across the country, we experience the fewer priests situation. So it's really important and crucial for us to pray and to foster vocations. So we're going to talk about some of those particular programs that you provide in just a moment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Light Moments. Here's Father Tom McSweeney.
Gloves was a nickname given to the late Michael Greenberg by New York City's homeless population. Every winter for 30 years, Mr. Greenberg gave warm gloves to people who couldn't afford to buy them. As a boy, Michael Greenberg helped his father take baked goods to market every morning before dawn. Life wasn't easy for the family, but Greenberg's father encouraged him to take advantage of the joy of giving. When his father died, Michael decided to honor his memory by giving away gloves. But instead of just donating the gloves to a worthwhile organization, Mr. Greenberg personally handed them out on the street. Michael Greenberg gave the people he encountered more than gloves. He gave them respect, and he gave of himself. As a result, he has been able to warm many hands and even more hearts.
This message from the Christophers, New York, 10017.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm talking with Joe Nudo, who is the president of the Serra Club, and we were talking about many of the wonderful programs that your organization provides for seminarians. But you want to make a statement about the fewer priest situation here in this diocese. After you do that, we'll go into those vocation programs that we can encourage other people from other parishes to get involved with as well.
Father, you know that there's a need for priests in our parish And David Schmidt was at our meeting, and he said that worldwide, a lot of vocation, mainly in Africa. But in our parish, as you know, we only have 91 active priests, meaning that we had to close some parishes and then combine them with other parishes. And the priests then have 1 or 2 parishes, and they're overworked. There's no doubt our priests are overworked. And that if you look at that, if you divide the amount of Catholics in our diocese, 169,000 by 91 priests, it comes like 1,700 parishioners per priest. So don't complain, each priest can't be at your bedside at the time you want him.
Well, thank you for saying that for us. We certainly appreciate it as priests as well.
Right.
Thank you.
And we know you're overworked, Father, because like you said, you have this job here at the ETC, and also you're taking care of St. Stephen's and Niles and many other things probably. And
well, thank you. Thank you. What are some of the vocation programs that your organization sponsors that other parishes you're encouraging them to be involved with as well?
We've broken it down into 2 areas. Priests are needed, so we want to pray for them, and also we have to develop an atmosphere in that parish that priests will come from. Now, I know there's a parish up in Cleveland that has 8 priests come out of that one parish. Why? I mean, what do they do up there that's different? Well, there's the atmosphere. Priests are important. Priests are looked up to. Priests someone wants to be a priest up there. So the programs we have is that we have 4 of them for prayer. We have 31 Club, which is you will sign up for a priest, prayer for the priest, 1 day a month. Maybe you pick your birthday. My birthday's the 3rd, so every 3rd day of the month when I go to church, I pay for vocations and for the priest, the present, and the past. So it's present, past, future. And so every 3rd day of the month, I pray for them. And if we can get that done all over the diocese, imagine how many prayers go up there. And prayers are important. As I'm in the Bible, it says in there, knock and you will receive, or open. Mm-hmm. And so please pray for priests. Next program we have is the cross. The cross is passed on to families or individuals. And if it would be great with the families, you sit around and pray at dinner time for vocations for a week, excuse me, then to return the cross back to another family or individual, and that's a powerful prayer too. Mm-hmm. And then we also have what we call seminarian cards. Once they are seminarians, you've got to pray that he finished. That's a tough road that they go through. It's not easy. So pray for that individual on the card. And also on the back of the card says pray for future vocations. What we do is pass them out at churches or have a table where people pick them up and take them home. I put mine by my mirror. So in the morning when I get up, there he is facing me, and I say a prayer that he has a good day and he's going to be successful becoming a priest. We adopt them as a Serra, and we adopt them, yes. But I think if more prayers go up for that individual, he has more success. Mm-hmm. Then we have the CCD or a class such in elementary school. The teacher would adopt one where they can send him a Christmas card. They say we're praying for him. Class of St. Anne's, the 5th graders. So that's important, prayer. So that's the way we think, the way we can, as a Serra individual. Then if we can get the deacons, I know the priests are busy, or the priests have what we call Eucharist adoration every so often for just vocations. That's a powerful prayer, adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. So that's the 5 prayer things that we have. Mm-hmm. Then the atmosphere, to develop atmosphere, last Sunday of October is Priesthood Sunday. And that's the day that the parish should set aside and honor the priest by having coffee and donuts after Mass, and the priest will sit around and have a sign in the bulletin, "Thank you, Father, for answering the call and being our priest." Potluck dinner. There's so many things on the website you can find out what you can do on Priesthood Sunday. Show your appreciation. Show the parish priests are important. And it's a great job. That's atmosphere development. Then we have the altar servers. The Serra Club likes to honor those individuals that serve, male and female. If we give them this certificate, possibly they'll recall how they served the priest in vocations. And we know that most of the priests were servers when they were young. So that's a step that they could atmosphere, that they would maybe become a priest or religious vocation. Call by name. That's a program where if you see a member in your parish, an individual that's very pious, or you see him then doing extra work, and the diocese also has a list of things of a characteristics of possibly of a good vocational priest and vocational sister. Go up to him and say, "Geez, boy, I think you'd make a good priest." Plant the seed. Maybe you never thought about it, but by you saying that, possibly you might get the wheels started. Yeah, that might be good. And as I saw in ETC, Mr. Donahue of the Catholic League, he mentioned there that priesthood is the men are the happiest of any vocation he knows. So it's a great vocation for men. And but by planting the seed, maybe that individual will say, "Yes, all right," because I know the Lord must be calling these people. We got to get the men that say yes to the Lord, and just by the atmosphere that we can get there.
Well, Joe, unfortunately, we're almost out of time. Just mention the last one very briefly.
Right. We should have a bulletin board in our rectory, not rectory, our vestibule, with vocations, where you can get in touch with somebody. And the types of vocations, not only just priesthood, but all of them. And also where they want to talk to somebody, a card maybe of Father Leone, Sister Joyce, or the pastor. Talk to him about vocation. Keep it up to date. Don't have the old stuff up there every day, on that.
Well, Joe, we are so happy that you came to our Spotlight show today. We wish we would have another half hour to spend with you, because we know that there's a lot more information that we could share with the folks that are with us. But mainly we want to encourage them to pray for vocations to the priesthood, religious life, to join Serra Club if they're able, to enjoy that wonderful ministry that you provide, not only priests but seminarians as well. And we thank you for your work, and God bless you.
Thank you, Father, for having us too.
Thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you.
Spotlight has been a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. Your program host was Father James Corda.
By the time we can walk, each of us yearns for the joy that comes from being able to do for ourselves. Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy. Church World Service.